Okay. All right.
I'm going to let Max ask most of the question because you know more about baseball than I do. I'll just.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. And thanks again, Nat. It's really good to talk to you again and talk to Willie. Since we spoke, Nat, I've talked to a couple other people. One fellow who played for Scepter and knew some of the guys that played against the Rockets. So maybe again, we heard a lot from Nat, and he's a politician, so he'll probably interrupt you, Willie. But maybe you can tell us when you became friends with Nat, and how you and Nat and Pumpsy came up first to Medicine Hat in 1951.
51, yes. Well, Nat and I been friends ever since childhood, and it's so the same with Pumpsy Green and so forth. But in 1951, we were playing for Contra Costa College, and we had a coach by the name of Gene Core, and he's just like a father to me, and I'm sure it's to Nat too. Did everything he could to get us to live a good life and stay in baseball and stay in college and so forth. But Nat went on to another college and so forth, but I chose another venue. But the experience of Canada in 51, when we went up, we didn't know what to expect. But one important thing is, I guess, once we got up there, the Canadians treated us like we were kings. And again, that's an experience that we've never had before, because naturally here in California and so forth, we were used to racism and so forth. But when we got up there, all of that disappeared.
Now, do you remember getting enticed with a large salary for the summer? What was the lure to get you up there? Just the opportunity to play ball at a high level?
Yes, and also to get away from this area for a while, because we never had experience anywhere else. Yeah. And it was one of my greatest experiences I've ever had, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And like I say, once we got up there and got acquainted with the rest of the teams and different things and so forth, and the people, it was very enjoyable.
Yeah. Nobody told you how flat Medicine Hat was before you went up there?
No, and didn't tell us how clean it was either. Medicine Hat, that's something I noticed, that once I got up there, Medicine Hat was one of the cleanest little towns I've ever seen.
And do you remember who in Medicine Hat, did you deal with Brick Swiggle at all? And
well, Brick was the one that brought us up.
Yeah,
he was our manager and so forth. That was another experience too, getting acquainted with him. But it ended up being pleasant.
Yeah, he's had if you go through the news articles, he had a few interesting issues both in California and in Medicine Hat with finances and things. And just the trip up, and my apologies, Nat, I can't remember. It was on the bus, right?
No,
nope,
it was
drive.
One of his vehicles.
Oh, okay.
He had some, cars that took us up and so forth. Had quite a few stops on the way up and so forth, but fortunately, didn't have any mechanical problems.
Yeah. The Rockets bus from 1950 onwards seemed to have, looking through the newspaper reports, a number of breakdowns, at various times. So that's good. It's a long drive. Now the team in Medicine Hat, it was unlike the Rockets, it was an integrated team, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And what about some of the players there? You mentioned how well you were treated by the the town and generally, what was the interaction with the players like?
Very good.
The local Canadian kids or men.
Well, I mean, the interaction with the team that we were on were basically all from California.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because they were my apologies. Yes. Yeah. Very few Canadian kids. So did you know many of them before you came up or?
No, we had heard of some of them, but we didn't know the guys. There was, let me take that back because there was some that was in our town that went up too. So they were, on the team also. So we did know them.
Yeah. And did you find any difference, coming from California, you'd mentioned the attitudes you had to deal with. And that was sort of my question then, I guess, is how the players dealt with you. Was there any overt racism you felt?
No. I would say this from the start, we had to get acquainted with each other, and so forth, and learn the ways of one another. And once we found that out and found out what the goal was, we got along very well together.
Yeah. And you were, Nat was a pitcher and you played second base.
Yes.
Right. And how would you rate Nat as a pitcher? Do you think he'd be able to strike out? Not now, but back then.
Oh, come on now. Nat wouldn't be able to strike me out if I, give into it.
He did say in our last call he could strike out Willie Mays, but that's because he's in better shape than Willie at 90. So
yeah. Well, I think both of us probably a little better shape than Willie Mays.
Yeah, he's still hanging in, so that's good.
Yeah, that's sure.
Now, do you remember? Looking at the ball fields, what was sort of you're playing second base. What was the condition of the infield like? The outfield, were they well maintained compared to your California Diamonds, or were they a little rough?
A little rough.
Yeah,
a little rough. That's something we had to adjust our ways and so forth and to handle that. But it was a little rough.
Yeah,
and some was even rougher than others, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What's other than Medicine Hat in 1951? What towns do you remember? If you remember playing in there? And
see, that's my problem. Memory right now. But I do remember Calgary.
Yeah.
The Stampede.
Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw, yes. See, when people call some of
Current.
those names, I recall, but it's just hard to pull them up.
Yeah, I'll send Nat you. I've sort of developed where the Rockets played and looked at there were tournaments in places called Lacombe and Camrose and obviously they came to Medicine Hat. So I guess you got there probably towards the end of May in 1951. Season started roughly.
Probably May, June.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And do you remember your first games against Indian Head, the Rockets that year?
I really don't.
So yeah,
I don't remember it.
Yeah, you remember playing them though.
I remember playing them, and I remember having a lot of fun with those guys.
Now this is going to be a family rated video on YouTube. So what sort of fun? I mean, going out to restaurants or card games or?
Well, go out to restaurants and even on the baseball field.
Yeah.
Even on the baseball field with the Rockets, they had quite a few guys who were very comical.
Yeah, and do you remember any of their names?
I got a list here of them right now. I was talking to what's the latest name that we talked to before?
Robin?
I think that's who it was. And
Yeah,
she
at
was
the museum.
asking, she had a picture of the group
Yep.
of the
Yep.
Rockets, but no names. But see,
Oh, there's a website with the name. So she was just testing you, Willie.
oh, okay. Well, because I've got
Yeah.
I've got pictures of the group with the names.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember when we talked to Nat, I think we were talking about Chet Brewer praying for the Rockets, and Chet would have probably stuck out to you guys as young kids. That Chet was 43 and had a long and very successful career through the Negro Leagues and all over North America playing ball. Did you notice him back then?
Yes, he still had some left.
Yeah.
He was older than us, but he still had some left, you know.
Yeah, I think I also asked, aside from the Willie Mays question, I asked Nat about Nat's fastball versus Chet's fastball, noting that Chet was 43. Do you remember the comparative velocity? Maybe Nat's not listening too much and you can tell the truth.
Yeah, well, Nat's velocity wasn't quite up to his, but Nat had a lot of upstairs there in the head there. So he was smart with his pitches.
Yeah. And I as I said, I've only got the games from that Indian Head has played so far. But did you I think you would have traveled to Indian Head as well. It looks like from the Rockets games I have. Do you remember visiting the town?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
Just another small town that you're playing in. And
yeah. Yes. Now, back in 2012, I would remember a lot more.
Yeah. I've got that article. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I can't remember where my keys are from this morning. So you're much ahead of me, Willie. And were there any, you mentioned how well you were treated, and that's, that's nice to hear and been consistent from your 2012 article and our conversation on that. Were there any incidents that you remember sort of adverse incidences, or was it all positive that you remember?
Well, mostly positive. After being up there for a while, at times after ball games, some of the fans would invite us to their homes and so forth.
Yeah,
which I thought was quite pleasant.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, what sort of size of group would it be? 2 of you? Would it be the whole team? Would it be?
It'd be mostly the California players. We were hanging out together mostly.
No, but I mean, when the people invited you over to their homes for a meal or a drink or whatever, was it sort of a team event, or did they say, we like Willie and Nat better than these other kids? Or
they definitely had some preferences, but it was for the whole team, but naturally it ended up being just a few of us.
Yeah,
one of my favorite players.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm looking at the stats, and I think Nat was well, at least the stats we have so far, you hit 287 in 1951, which is pretty good. I think Nat made some negative comments about your power, if I recall correctly. I don't know if Carol recalls that, but
not much power. A lot of speed.
A lot of speed, and you're hitting 287 is not too bad in that time. Well, Nat, the record show, won 7 games, so he must have been doing something right, even if he didn't have Chet Brewer's fastball.
And I agree on that. Like I said, Nat was smart in his pitching.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess when so in 1951, you were 18 or 19? I'm just trying to think.
No, 18.
18, yeah. And so, I guess everybody thinks they're invincible in sports at 18, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. And
And I
and
think I
so
was.
what's that?
And I think I was probably.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so just the size of the crowds in Medicine Hat, do you sort of remember, were they, a couple hundred people, 1,000 people? Do you remember sort of the number that attended in Medicine Hat?
Well, most of the time it was over 1,000.
Yeah, so pretty good crowds
Yeah,
for semi-pro ball.
right. And some of the tournaments and so forth would be something close to 5,000 and 6,000.
Yeah, yeah. Camrose and Lacombe and Indian Head, they
Right.
all had big crowds. And
Calgary.
and I think I don't know if we asked Nat about this, but do you recall what you got paid in Medicine Hat, the salary?
I really don't. I don't remember.
Yeah.
At that particular time, it really wasn't important to. I was
Yeah,
enjoying it.
Yep, you're getting meals and playing ball.
That's right.
Do you remember how Medicine Hat did in money tournaments that year? Did they win any, you recall? I can't recall off the top of my head, but
I think we had our share.
yeah.
I can't recall which one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Indian Head maybe was next year was that. So after 1951, you go back to California.
Yes.
Yeah, and did you play ball? Continue to play ball in the winter, or?
Oh yes, we continued to play ball and so forth, but we also left ourselves open for the draft. So we got drafted.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Nat was 1953, and I my apologies, I didn't look up your draft card. When did you get drafted?
In 52. Well, no, first part of 53.
Yeah, so because you played 52 in Indian Head.
Yes, right.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'll most of the draft cards are on the the Ancestry website, so you can see that information. And just before we leave Medicine Hat, maybe I couldn't coax too many out of Nat, but if you had any Brick Sweegle stories that you remember about him, anything good or bad or interesting?
I can't think of any.
Yeah, I think he left Medicine Hat with a few unpaid bills in 1951, if if the newspapers are accurate.
Well, that's probably true.
Okay.
I just can't remember it.
Yeah, no. And so 1952, I think you Nat, you're going back with the did you start with the Rockets in with Medicine Hat in 1952?
No, we started with the Rockets.
Okay. And so how did you get over there? How did you go from Medicine Hat to Indian Head Rockets? Like you and Nat and Pumpsy, what was the situation? Free agent contracts, huge signing bonus?
I don't remember how to, Nat, I don't remember how we got to.
Well, Sweegle was a key individual. So apparently he had switched ownerships. He was with the Medicine Hat initially, and then he became involved with the Indian Head Rockets, and we sort of followed him.
Yeah,
because he contacted us and told us that he was no longer with Medicine Hat, but he wanted us to come up and participate with the Indian Head Rockets.
So yeah, I think he was probably on a fast bus out of town from Medicine Hat. So
yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned Pumpsy too much, but Pumpsy, of course, was the first Black to integrate the Boston Red Sox. Shamefully 12 years after Jackie. What was he like as a player at 18? How did he compare? Obviously, had the talent to play in the major leagues 7 or 8 years later.
Pumpster was that whole family of Greens boys were very talented, and Pumpster was one of the best infielders or baseball players at that particular time around us that we've ever seen. He was real quiet, but very aggressive when he get on the baseball field. But just to meet him, you'd think he, didn't know anything about baseball or any sports. That's just the way his attitude was as a civilian. But he'll get on the baseball field, very aggressive and very talented.
And my apologies, I should have looked at Bumpsy more, but did he play any other sports in the Bay Area besides baseball, or?
Yes, he did. Played basketball and played football. But he was, more talented in baseball.
Yeah.
I would interject that, as Willie indicated, the Green family were a fantastic group. Cornell, who played basketball, later wound up going with the Dallas Cowboys and was on a Super Bowl team. He had another brother, I think it was Wendell. He went to Oregon. He was an outstanding football player. He had a little small little stint with the NFL, but he didn't. But what I thought Pumps's attribute was very similar to Jackie Robinson, and I think that's maybe why Boston selected him. He was not a guy that argued and wanted to challenge the umpires, anything else. He just did his job, and he did it very passively and very quietly, but very professionally. And I think that was one of the key reasons why the Boston Red Sox picked him.
Yeah, well, Tom Yawkey, the owner, had a long history of less than enlightened views in this area. They've actually removed Tom Yawkey Way from Fenway. So it's, as I mentioned, Pumpsy probably should have been in the majors or someone else long before 1959.
Right.
Yeah, and so if we and just Nat, as I said, I mentioned to Willie you won 7 games in 1951, and I don't think you volunteered that in our first call, did you?
No, I don't remember the records. We were just having fun and enjoying ourselves.
He's just a shy guy, right, Willie?
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, and so just coming to the Rockets in 1952, I'm just going to pull up any of the players that you remember specifically from the team. I'll just give you some names that I'm going 50. Where are they? Let's see some of the guys. Oh, well, Emmett Neal and Winters Calvin. I think they were California guys.
They were Californians. They were former teammates of ours.
Yeah.
So,
They were high school and college teammates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you keep your friends a long time, Nat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think of, or looking at some of the names, Eloyd Robinson, Horace Latham, Adair Ford, Charlie McMillan, Andy Porter. What about the manager, Jim Williams? Any memories of him?
remember Jim Williams, we gave him a nickname of Muscle Jaw because he always talked with his teeth clenched, never did open his mouth talking. Get excited, it was quite comical.
And my apologies, I should have looked at it before the call, but I remember, and I don't know if it was 1952 or maybe it was 50-51, where he got suspended by the league for arguing with the umpire. Is that, or did that happen more than once? Maybe
that's what I was getting ready to comment on. That wasn't the first time.
Yeah,
he did a lot of that.
He actually, it's when I remember when I was 18 and I thought anybody, above 40 was ancient and never did anything. But he actually played outfield a couple of years with the Homestead Grays when Josh Gibson was catching. So, and if you look up his stats in the Negro Leagues, he had a pretty good bat. So, did he ever talk about his time in the Negro Leagues? I mean, some old
Well,
guys.
he talked about it, but I thought he was kind of exaggerated.
Yeah.
But now that you tell me that it was for real, give him
Yeah, well, I'll send Willie the stats that we have. One of the good things about baseball research over the years is they've dug up so many stats from the Negro Leagues that, it forced Major League Baseball to recognize these statistics. They couldn't just say, well, Josh Gibson didn't do this or Oscar Charleston didn't do that. So, so it's good to see. And, but as you say, I think when you're 18 and you hear a 45-year-old talking about how great they were, or how great their teammates were, you kind of go, yeah, sure, buddy. So, time affects us all, I guess, in that. There were a couple, and then again, I don't know the guys from this year. I haven't looked them up. Toribio Leal and Rolando Garcia. And I don't know if they were Spanish speaking guys that
yes, they were.
And was there, were they fluent in English? Or
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So
And I think Leo was a pitcher.
Yep. Yeah, it's good. And as was Rolando. So it's interesting that some of the guys, an additional barrier when you're coming into any type of ball in Canada, the United States, if English isn't your first language, you have another degree or another level you have to overcome. Certainly we see it here in Vancouver with a lot of the Dominican kids come up and some are really good, interacting and some, they're almost all very good, but it's just, I can imagine how hard it is for them when it's a different language. And so just maybe again, if either of you guys can just maybe talk a bit more about your time in 1952 and the interaction. Do you remember where you stayed? I think it was, if I can jog your memory, did you stay in the Dominion Cafe above there? Does that ring a bell?
It was a hotel. I don't
Yeah.
recall exactly the name of the hotel.
I don't either.
Yeah, and I think and did you have most of your meals in the hotel or in the cafe or how did it?
Well, we had it throughout the area. We got what they call a meal allowance, and that was for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you were free to go wherever you wanted to. And we sort of patronized all of the establishments.
Right.
Yeah, and never any, as you mentioned, never any problem. Sort of just somebody saying no, you can't come in here, or even giving us kind of a an unspoken refusal. Yeah.
Always welcome.
That's good. And just the Medicine Hat, did you just going back there, I can't remember whether I asked you, Nat, whether you traveled around on a bus or were there individual cars then, or for Medicine Hat? Do you remember in 1951, either of you guys?
Yeah, it was in cars and buses.
Okay. And then in
buses.
In 1952, the Rockets bus actually came up from, they were a team from Jacksonville, Florida. So they actually drove the bus up here and had it relabeled Indian Head Rockets Baseball Club. And there's, I think, some photos we've sent Nat that have it there. And so I think in Indian Head, you probably drove in the bus most of the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the biggest problem. The bus would break down quite frequently.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you about is do you remember sort of the worst breakdown? Were you ever stuck in the middle of nowhere and kind of going, it stays light a long time up here in at the end of June, but it's getting dark pretty soon. I mean, how was it? Was there was Big Jim a mechanic, or was the driver a mechanic? How did it get fixed?
I don't recall, but
Yeah.
eventually it got fixed. I don't know whether they made contact with a mechanic nearby or just what, but eventually we were on the road again.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, obviously there's a ton of towns and cities that you played in. If you guys could pick out sort of one town or city or event that struck you as, man, this is just a little more special, or it just sticks in your memory as a place, whether it's the ball result or how the town looked or how the people treated you differently, is there one event that sticks out, or one locale that sticks out for you guys?
Well, Calgary stick out for me because I enjoyed playing ball there most of all, and in the restaurants and so forth.
Yeah, I'd say both Calgary and Edmonton. Both of them are big cities, and there was a lot of activity within the town after the game. So it was, you know, it was like being home in San Francisco, in that area. But those were the two cities.
Were you guys in Calgary around Stampede time?
Yes.
Yeah, they used to. Yeah, that's when we played many of their tournaments.
Yeah, so they had a lot bigger crowds just from the Stampede people. Yeah.
One little city that I enjoyed was Swift Current. It was a sort of small, quaint city that was very friendly.
Yeah, Swift Current Indians was the team there. Yeah, and now one of the things. Sorry, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, just with Edmonton and Calgary, did you run into Black people in those cities?
Some.
Yeah, that was a football player that was in, I think, Calgary or Edmonton. One outstanding football player.
Yep,
I think.
That would be Rolly Mays, or the other guy before that.
Rolly Miles.
Rolly Miles, yeah.
Okay.
Rolly Miles.
Yeah, Rolly Miles.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about him last time, Nat. We might have. But he played for Regina in 1951 for a few games. So you probably played against him there.
Yeah.
And then he went to Edmonton and ended up in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. So, you know, whether he chose the right sport or not, he certainly had a long and good career in Edmonton. And did you, one of the people we talked to, she was 1951, 52. And again, my apologies, I can't remember what year. Did you ever travel to Saskatoon? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Saskatoon.
Yeah. So she meant, you know, she was 12, and her uncle, I believe, was Jimmy Robeson, who was the sort of the chair, the organizer of Indian Head Rocket baseball, and she said her parents had invited the Rockets over for, you know, a meal after the game, which was nice to see. So she remembered that quite. You know, it's pretty impressive when you see not just a team of ball players, but as Carol knows, you know, Saskatoon at that time, very few Black people, you know, a fairly high Indigenous population, but it is, you know, just see athletes and see, you know, people from away coming, and so I think it was equally impressed upon her as you guys had a good experience too. So yeah. Willie, we talked a lot about Nat and with him on his post playing career, and I think Carol and I both were ready to work on his re-election campaign after listening to him, assuming he's going to run again. Although I don't think as
Don't-
foreigners,
don't-
we can't
but
contribute,
don't-
can we?
Don't put that in his head to run again. It's time for him to retire.
Yeah. So you mentioned you got into the draft drafted in 1953.
Yes.
And maybe you can just tell us about your post baseball career on the prairies. What transpired from then?
Well, after getting out of the service, I spent 18 months. It's supposed to have been 24, but my company that I was in, division that I was in overseas in Korea, moved out to Hawaii, and I only had 6 months to go. And they said that at that particular time, that's too small a time to transfer with them. And they said we would give you an early release.
Now, did you see any action? Was there action in Korea, or was it?
When I first got there, yes.
Yeah.
But only a short time, thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
I was there about a month doing action. And after that, they ceased fire.
Yeah. So.
And then I ended up in special service, playing baseball and basketball. So that was enjoyable to me. And also, I had the experience of coaching some of the teams.
Now, Willie, you're an infielder, but I don't know if I saw anywhere how tall you are. You know what the next question is going to be, right?
Yeah, right. 5'7".
So 5'7". So were you like Spud Webb and Nate Robinson? Could you throw it down, or were you more Bob Cousy or something?
I was aggressive, and I guess I had a little talent, but not like Spud Webb though.
Yeah.
They were a little extra.
I played basketball after I hit 220 in Little League at 12, and I always, I'm 6'4" and could dunk, but I always said, well, those guys, they had breakaway rims now, so it's so much easier now than the rigid rims that I had to deal with. I sound like an old guy complaining about clouds and kids on the lawn and things like that.
Well, Willie's being modest, but he was like a jet. He was quick, and you couldn't catch him, and he was always elusive.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy for New Orleans, a small guy for the Pelicans I saw last night, Jose Alvarado from New York City. And he's under 6 feet, certainly. And he is just incredibly fast. And you see
He certainly is. I saw it too.
Yeah.
Is very talented.
Yeah. Just amazing. And so after the service, where did your career take you?
Went into retail. So I ended up managing a retail men's clothing store.
Yeah. And did you make sure Nat could be well dressed for his election campaigns?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. He said he probably told you he only bought from you, right? Yeah. And how long? Sorry?
Probably said that, but I knew better.
Yeah, he probably said that to 4 or 5 stores, right? You get
right.
your votes wherever you can, right? So and how long did you do that for, roughly?
I ended up with 33 years.
Wow.
I was with the same company there for 33 years.
Yeah. And so that take you to about 60-ish?
Yes, in the late, I guess, in middle to the late 60s, yes.
Yeah. And so what has kept you so young and vibrant for the last 40 years, other than being Nat's friend?
Yeah, I guess clean living.
Yeah.
I mean, really, when I say clean living, I've never been a drinker or a smoker.
No, I mean, you look incredible.
I love people.
Yeah. And I'm sure people say all the time, oh, how old are you? 70, 72 or something like that? You must get that.
Yes.
Now, I mean, that's
often. quite often, but I think they were just, being nice to me.
But
I had a,
Willie's never shown his age. He's always looked like he was still in high school.
yeah, well, both you guys are incredibly young looking and vibrant. That's something we talked, I think, a bit about last time, Nat, was just, you're on the road a lot, and it's impressive that you don't drink or didn't drink or smoke back then. What about your teammates in Medicine Hat and Indian Head? Did you see guys who had alcohol problems or drank to the extent it affected their game or anything like that, or did they?
Not really.
No, I didn't notice
Not
that.
really.
Some of them smoked. That was about the only
Yeah.
negative thing.
And drink moderately.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not. It's not that when you're on the bus right after the game, you're not going to the bar and doing that. Yeah. Okay. And so I don't, Carol, do you have other things to ask these guys about?
No, I don't, but have you been back to Canada since the 50s?
No,
neither one of us.
I haven't.
No, we haven't.
Well, we're going to have to get you two guys up for either the end of June opening in Indian Head or the induction into the Saskatchewan Baseball Hall of Fame in August in Battleford. It's it's certainly long overdue that the Rockets were recognized. So it's really good. I don't have any association with the Hall of Fame other than telling them who they are, going to their dinners and saying, geez, you should put these guys in. But one of the things I thought was impressive about that is, at 18, you guys made the decision to leave the United States and go to a different country, even if Canada is somewhat similar to the States in a lot of respects. And a lot of people from the States have never even been to Canada once. What do you think enabled the three of you guys, and then the next year your two teammates, as well, I guess, was it just your other team, your other California guys were coming up? I mean, what led you on this adventure? What impact did your parents have on that? What made you three different than hundreds of other ball players who just are happy to be playing in, Orange County or San Diego?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think our coach.
Yeah.
I think our coach had a lot to do with that. Us, making up our mind and feeling comfortable going up there to play.
Yeah, we had an Irish coach named Gene Core, as Willie indicated. From our perspective, that guy never had an ounce of racism in his blood. I mean, he treated all of his players very equal. In fact, I may be overstating it, but I think Willie and he might have treated us a little bit better. But I think some of the other players would say the same thing. That was the impact that he had on his team. And I think Willie and I in particular, and I know Pumpsy, he went and assisted Pumpsy when he first signed, first with the Oakland Oaks in the Pacific Coast League. Gene Core took time out and helped negotiate as an agent almost. And so that was his love for us and his respect for us. And I think our relationship with him made it a lot easier for us to deal with Canadians and with not only Canadians, but other Caucasians throughout the country.
Did he talk to you, obviously talk to you about baseball and opportunities and travel and things like that, but did he talk to you much about sort of broader issues in the world, or did it just come to you through his baseball teachings?
Well, for me, it was like Willie indicated, he was like a father figure. I remember when I got out of the military, and we both had 2 years of college experience, and I'd be driving on the freeway and he would see me and pull me over. Nat, you got to get back in school. Are you in school? No, Gene, you got to get back. He just kept pestering me, uh, concerned about my interests. So when I finally went back to school and graduated, he was as proud as any member of my family
That's great.
of my success. And that was the kind of individual that he
And
was.
how much do you think he inspired your entry into the political arena? Was he a driving force there, or somebody you look back on and said, this is?
Well, he was
motivates
part
you?
of it because he was part of the campaign manager when I first ran. Willie
that's
was
good.
on the campaign team as well. So Gene, he was still very popular in the area.
Very instrumental.
And in sports, and his participation along with Willie's was quite instrumental in my success.
Yeah, and that says a lot where a coach follows you even after you've finished providing them with your athletic talents. I think it says a lot about them as a person, right? So now I have one question for you, Nat, is given Willie's charm in this interview, how did you not convince him to go into politics?
Well,
I don't know who I'd vote for if it was between you two guys.
well,
We both realized that he was the best man for that.
well, Willie's a kind of a supporter behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and in politics, I don't think he, although he support others, I don't think he had the taste for the
battles.
shenanigans and everything that has to go through politics.
Well, maybe if you decide to run again, Willie can challenge you in a primary for council, something like that.
Yeah, we both getting up there now, so a lot of our friends that we depend on are no longer here. So, and these young people don't have the same respect for some of us old seniors as we have respected our seniors.
I think it's important for anybody, and you certainly, to have the idea as you get older, whether you're 20, 40, 60, 80, or 90, is you have friends of all ages to, as I looked at my dad when he was 80, all his friends had passed away and he had no friends younger than him. So, I think certainly things where younger people, we all tend to get a little more stodgy and conservative in our views. Everything was better in the 1950s or 60s or 70s, rather than saying, how can we look forward and make today and right now a better place?
We've been tremendously blessed, and I don't think we could ask for anything more. Incidentally, on May the 21st, the city of Richmond, we're going to be honoring Willie Mays with a dedication.
Oh, that's great.
He'll be 91 May the 5th, I think.
Yeah.
So on May the 21st, he's coming from San Francisco to Richmond. We're going to dedicate a baseball field in his honor, because he and the Giants have been quite significant in contributing to Little League baseball here in Richmond. So that's going to be a big day for us and for him. We're trying to get Orlando Cepeda and Warren Marichal to join him. So we're working with the Giants organization. I think Marichal lives here in Concord, which is only about 30 miles, but Orlando, I think he's still in the Dominican Republic. So we're trying to ask the Giants to, facilitate bringing them into the ceremonies.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the other Giants of the. Obviously, Willie's McCovey has passed away, and I think Jim Ray Hart. I'm not sure about him. They had some great ball players in the, after they moved to the Bay Area, and I'd say it's one of the functions as we get older. All our childhood heroes, every day you seem to be missing another one, and so, but it's great that Willie can be honored and obviously well deserved. So Carol, do you as I said, I think I've exhausted and then some my questions and comments here. Do you have anything to add for these gentlemen?
No, I just, if we were able to find a way to get the funds for you guys to come here, would you be willing to come and is that something you would be able to do? So fly up here?
Nice to put them on the spot, Carol.
Well, no, it's
Yeah.
like some people don't like to travel, so.
Well, I travel all the time, so it's no problem for me. I don't, I think, I can't speak for Willie, but
I would seriously think about it,
Okay,
Yeah.
you know.
I think
Yeah.
we need to determine which should be the more, I guess, what event would be probably the best one to attend.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
one in May, I think May, you
End
say?
of June.
June
Yeah.
20,
June.
June 24, 25, 26. And I
Yeah.
can't
Okay.
remember when the Baseball Hall of Fame is when.
It's sometime in August,
August?
middle of August-ish. I sorry, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't either.
We
what-
could, I think if you were picking, certainly the Indian Head, I think would be more a community event with more interaction.
Right.
The Baseball Hall of Fame is great, but it's kind of a dinner, and you go to the Hall of Fame Museum in the afternoon, and then you go to the dinner, and it doesn't have. I think there'll be a lot more community involvement in Indian Head, but that's just me, and I'm open to lobbying and bribes from both the Baseball Hall of Fame and Robin at the Indian Head Museum. I'm going to be heading to both. I don't know if Carol will be, hopefully.
Yeah, that's
Well-
my plan. The only thing is like the Indian Head is only half an hour outside of Regina. If they flew into Regina, whereas if we
Yeah.
flew into
Saskatoon.
Saskatoon, then North Battleford is an hour and a half.
Well, what would be our role, or what would you want us to do?
We would want you to be honored and feted and welcomed and treated as the people you are, right? That's and just relive some memories. The Rockets Museum, it's an opening of a museum, so it's there's nothing. I mean, it's honoring, but it's you're not getting an induction plaque like you do at in the Saskatchewan Baseball Hall of Fame, but you get that anyway. So we can talk about that in the next little bit, and just answer more of your questions and things like that, and figure out logistics if that. But as I said, I know certainly the people of Indian Head. I've done a lot of work with the museum, and I know there's going to be tremendous community involvement as there was in the 1950s when they got 8,000 people to the tournaments, right? Rural Saskatchewan has changed a fair bit. So many of the towns have disappeared with urbanization. Indian Head has maintained about the same population of 1,500 people. It's only 45 minutes from Regina, so it's close enough and it's big enough. But I think it has a good community spirit. And
Well, why don't the two of you determine which one of the events would be most appropriate?
Yeah.
And are there going to be other players? I assume?
Well, I mean, there's going to be as many people. There aren't. There's actually one fellow in. He actually lives in Medicine Hat. Although he played for Scepter, Saskatchewan, a small town in 1951. A fellow named George Mahaffey. Probably don't remember him, but he remembered, Chet Brewer, and was a teammate of Chet's, because Chet played in Scepter, Saskatchewan before he went to Indian Head. But there aren't a whole lot of ball players left. And, as I mentioned to you before, Nat, one of my regrets is, I didn't do this in 1982, 1992, 2012, when that other person there. I mean, it's nice to have the newspaper article, and it's great, and it's there forever. But, kids like us, we don't read anymore. We just watch videos on YouTube and TikTok. So I think it's important to get your voice down for the people. And part of that too is, again, nothing needs to be done really in either venue, but it's really just honoring not just you two guys, but all the guys who came before. all the ball players, the Rockets, the Medicine Hat Mohawks, the Mandak League in Manitoba, the Manitoba Dakota League, they had brought a number of black ball players up, Willie Wells, Leon Day. Rosetown, was that in 1954, Carol?
Yes, I believe it was just
Yeah.
the 1 year.
Yeah, they brought an all black team up from, I believe, from Philadelphia. So, that's an important part of Saskatchewan's history. It's part of what Carol and at her museum and Robin at hers are looking to do and accomplish. And you two gentlemen are a tremendous part of that. So that's
Okay, why don't
nothing more needs to be done than that. Is
why don't the two of you determine which event you think would be most appropriate for us to attend, and then give us the dates and so forth, and get back to us, and we'll make a conscientious decision.
Yeah. And I'm sure, the other thing too is just like here is for the one you don't attend, there's always the Zoom calls on video that can be done. So, that's what my work has been like for the last 2 years. Meeting more people now in person, but, for 2 years, I basically sat on calls like this for work. So it could be done for a lot of things, but I know people want to see you. They want to see you in person. And obviously you're both very engaging and vibrant young men. So,
well, at our age and so forth, health is going to be important too, whether we'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
Willie, I'm 63 and I worry about that too. So I'm just going, I'm not going to say to my spouse, if I look that good in 27 years, because she'll say, you don't look that good now. So anyway. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks so much for making this possible, Nat, and Willie, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And we'll stay in touch.
Okay.
Talking to both of you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Have a great one now.
Thanks, guys.
Look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thanks. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.